Hello, fellow members of the Alliance, and welcome to episode 10 of the Alliance Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Villagomez. You can find me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. You can find the show on Twitter at Alliance FB Pod. Great show coming up for you today. It is week 2 action. We are going to set it up for you in first quarter, and then the second quarter we're going to talk to Chantel Buchi. She is the team reporter for the Salt Lake Stallions, and then we're going to turn our attention to San Antonio and talk to Cole Thompson, the team reporter for the Commanders, and then we're going to introduce a new segment called the Fantasy 4-Pack, all about the fantasy daily side of it on fanball.com. So again, let's not waste any more time, shall we? Let's get this game going. As we get started today, let's look at the game matchups that are happening this weekend. Of course, it is week 2, and we are going to be experiencing some great second week action here in the Alliance. And of course, we'll start out the weekend with Salt Lake at Birmingham. Then we turn our attention to Arizona at Memphis. And then Orlando at San Antonio on Sunday, and then Atlanta at San Diego on Sunday as well. Now, what's cool about this is that there's no games at the same time, so we don't have to worry about doubling up on games this time. Salt Lake Birmingham is going to be at 11 o'clock Pacific time on Saturday, and then at 5 o'clock Pacific time, p.m., Atlanta at Memphis. And then Sunday at 1 o'clock, it's going to be Orlando and San Antonio, and then San Diego and Atlanta will be at 5 o'clock. So that's going to be awesome. I didn't enjoy the fact that they actually doubled up on opening weekend. It wasn't necessarily the greatest of circumstances. I did want to watch all the games, and while I could pay attention to both games on the phone and on the TV, it still made it difficult. So, and also hats off to those of you who are actually making those games available. We won't tell. But yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about not having to split attention this weekend. So. All right, well, let's pay a little bit of attention. Let's break some games down here as we look at Salt Lake at Birmingham. The big question here is whether or not Salt Lake actually has the manpower to get past Birmingham's defense. As we could plainly see in the game against the Express, Birmingham's defense completely and totally came to play. Again, they held Hackenberg to just a miserable 87 yards of total passing offense and picked off both quarterbacks once each. And it was just, it was horrible. And then you had the defense led by Jonathan Massa. I'm going to screw this up. Masakui with his 2 sacks. It was a big game. It was a big game for Birmingham. It was a big game for their defense. They were able to just pretty much manhandle the Express. And it's not as if Salt Lake's offense was all that much better. I mean, obviously, they put up more points, but Josh Woodrum, he was only 103 yards on the night, and he got picked off once as well. So there's a lot of damage that could be done here by the Birmingham defense again against this Salt Lake Stallions offense. And I'm not quite sure that Salt Lake has the manpower to overtake that defense, and especially now that they're coming off of that first game win, and they're coming off of the confidence of being able to stifle an offense, not just win a game and not just be able to come out and play well. They flat out stifled that offense, and so when you have that kind of confidence coming into a game, that's definitely a huge momentum shift for Birmingham this early in the season, and this early in the birth of the league even. So, and especially at home at Birmingham, Salt Lake coming across the country to play Birmingham. It's an early game even, so that goes to, a little bit of psyche because time differences in and of themselves are rough, but when you're playing an early game in the morning and you're on East Coast time and on, or actually not East Coast time, but when you change time zones anyways, jet lag's going to catch up with you, and it's just not a good situation. So I don't see Salt Lake coming out of this one with a win. Again, I just think they have their hands full with this Birmingham defense, and the Birmingham defense will definitely have something to say about the Salt Lake offense. Turn our attention to Arizona at Memphis, and this, again, is one of those situations where Arizona's coming off of a huge statement win, and really just a good showing by their quarterback against that Salt Lake Stallions team. John Wolford, 4 touchdown passes on the night, was a great night for him, almost 300 yards passing. And he managed to really do well against not a terrible defense. It wasn't like the Stallions played awful. It's just that he played ridiculously well. And they're going up against a Memphis team that, again, just got annihilated by the Birmingham Iron. Birmingham put up 26 points on him, and Luis Perez did a great job. And Luis Perez didn't even throw a touchdown pass in the entire game. He was 252 yards, but didn't throw a single touchdown pass. So, this is a situation where the yardage was there, but the touchdown passes weren't. And I think the Express just have too much to handle against this hot shot team. And then the Iron actually had a rough go against Trent Richardson. Now, some may argue that Trent Richardson, with his 23 carries, could have had more and should have had more yards than 58. But he did get those 2 touchdowns. And Arizona's got a very good running back themselves in Jarrell Presley, who was one of the more impressive runners of the week. He had a pretty decent game on the ground. He had 64 yards on 18 carries and that 2-point conversion. But then again, we talked about it last time in the last episode. His dangerousness came from that touchdown catch for 30 yards. So again, there's a lot to be handled here for the Memphis Express and their defense. And Arizona is it looks like the hot team. It looks like one of a couple of hot teams in this league that jumped out to a very early momentum switch. Now, this is one where, again, this is Arizona coming out to Memphis, so flying across the country. But in this case, I don't know that this is going to hurt Arizona as much as it would hurt Salt Lake to fly out. Again, Salt Lake is coming off of a loss. They have a lot of questions that they need to be answered, but then so does Memphis. But here's the thing. If anybody can snap a team back into it, I feel as if maybe Mike Singletary can snap a team back into it. He definitely has the fiery coaching traits that can bring a team back from a loss like this. Christian Hackenberg is still going to make the start. We didn't talk about really who's going to make the start. Obviously, Birmingham, Luis Perez, who was contacted by 8 NFL teams reportedly, is going to make the start, obviously. And we are still led to believe that Woodrum is still going to be at the helm for Salt Lake. So Hackenberg still gets the start for Memphis. And then, you'd be absolutely crazy to not start Wolford one more time if you are the hot shots. Turning our attention to Sunday's games, Orlando at San Antonio. This is a clash of 2 one-win teams. And so one of them are going to walk out with a loss after the Sunday is over. And this one's a close one. This one actually, I believe, is a little bit closer than most people are probably giving it right now, seeing as though what Arizona did in game 1 against the Legends. Orlando did against the Legends. And for me, I think that the San Antonio Commanders have a better defense than did the Legends. And so I think they're going to give Orlando just a little more to handle. And I know Garrett Gilbert was able to light up the scoreboard along with Jalen Marshall in that one. Again, Jalen not only catching a touchdown, but throwing a touchdown pass as well to none other than Garrett Gilbert. So, again, this is an opportunity for San Antonio to show that their defense was no fluke and that they can hang with the likes of Garrett Gilbert and turn it into a win. But I don't think that Orlando will have the same amount of success against San Antonio. I think San Antonio, especially being at home, this time will come out with a victory, only because, again, San Antonio really, they showed what they could do. They just didn't have it all together, I think, against the Fleet. And opening night jitters being what they were, it was difficult for either team to really gain a whole lot of purchase in that game. But I think Logan Woodside, he had 255 yards and on the night, so I think he can quite possibly get some stuff going and find a way to beat Orlando. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I believe that is what's going to happen. And then at running back, I mean, we don't know whether or not it's going to be Aaron Green or Kenneth Farrow that's going to see a majority of the work. And then even David Cobb can get in the mix there for San Antonio. All three of them contributing on the night with a decent amount of carries. And then on the flip side of the ball for the Orlando Apollos. We know that at running back, it's probably going to end up being Akeem Hunt because, again, he had a majority of the work last time against the Legends. So, and he looked good doing it. So I don't know any reason why he would not be in that capacity again. And then last but not least, it is the battle of the non-win teams. It's Atlanta at San Diego, and both of these teams have a lot to atone for, especially San Diego, being that they really did expect to come out of the gates as a very strong team and look strong, and unfortunately that's just not how it played out on the field against the Commanders. And they had Berkovici, who, he is not going to be starting. Now, it is the Philip Nelson time, and they actually are one of the teams that decided they were going to make a switch early on to change things up, I guess, after week one. Overreaction theater is in the house. But Berkovici is not going to get the start. It's going to be Philip Nelson. And Philip Nelson came in and really didn't do any better than Burko. He was 5 of 10 for 68 yards and an interception. And he had every chance to come back and bring the team to within some sort of semblance close to what, it wasn't like the Commanders pulled away. It was 15-6 at the end of the night. And, it was up to Nelson to try to come in and do something. But unfortunately he did not come in and do anything over the last couple of drives to bring the team back. So we'll see how that works out. It's not that San Antonio is completely helpless, San Diego, all these sand teams. It's not as if they were totally helpless. They have a decent amount of players that can make plays. They've got Juwan Gardner who looked good running the ball. And they had Gavin Escobar, and Brian Brown and Dantes Ford, Cam Kelly, who was supposed to be a big factor, was not necessarily a factor. So, I think it's time for San Diego to come together. I think Philip Nelson might give them a better edge than Berkovici, but that line's got to protect whatever quarterback is behind there, because that was one of the biggest problems with the line, was just not protecting. So if the line can gel together and protect the quarterback, protect Philip Nelson, I think San Diego will actually walk away with a win in this game, leaving Atlanta 0-2 and scrambling for answers along with Memphis. So that's a quick game breakdown and at least what I think is going to happen. So if you're keeping score out there, I'm picking Birmingham over Salt Lake. I'm picking Arizona over Memphis. I'm picking San Antonio over Orlando for the upset special. If there can be an upset special early. And then San Diego over Atlanta to even up the record at 1-1. I don't know. I don't usually play pick 'em, but this is pretty fun. Let's do that. Let's just say that's what I picked. So again, we went over some players to look out for in some of these games. Again, depth charts, we just don't get them. So by the time you listen to this on Friday, hopefully there'll be a depth chart. And then it'll make everything I just said obsolete. But whatever. I just, whatever information we can glean from the tweets that we get and everything like that, then that's what we can do. So, that is it. That is what we're talking about. And those are the game breakdowns. So we'll just continue on with the show. Joining me now is Chantel Buchi. She is the team reporter for the Stallions. I finally get some Stallion action up in this podcast. We've been so heavy on Apollos and some of the other teams out there, but we haven't heard too much from the Stallions. So Chantel, we're excited to finally get a voice there from Utah. So thanks for coming on.
Of course, I'm happy to be talking with you.
All right, so as the team reporter for the Stallions, you get to cover the Salt Lake Stallions, who kind of fell upon a little bit of hard times in week one, but talk about that. I know, I had to, but talk about that experience overall. First week of a new league, it had to have been exciting.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was crazy, like how much exposure we got, like how many people were getting in on this. Like we had, I think the Alliance had like 80,000 followers before the weekend on Twitter, and then now there's like over 200. So like, as you can imagine, there's like tons of people who were just super interested in the league, and we are getting like so many more fans. So it's really fun. But even though they lost, like it was so much fun, and it was really good getting out there on the field for the first time with the whole team, because they learned a lot about themselves, and they're ready to they've been practicing really hard this week to beat the Iron this Saturday, and they're just correcting their mistakes.
So how did you get started as a team reporter with the Stallions?
Yeah, so I actually got my master's at USC my master's in sports journalism at USC in California, and then I worked with the NFL Network afterward, and then I guess my experience and my education kind of stood out to them, but I actually I reached out to them on LinkedIn, and I showed my excitement because I'm actually from Salt Lake, and this is the first time we ever had a pro football team. So I was just so excited, and I knew I had to be part of it. So I just kept, like saying, hey, like, when are you guys going to post for me to apply? And they said, well, just, look back on this time of the year. And I'm like, okay. And so when I got the notification to apply, I applied within the first hour. Then they told me I was like the first person they interviewed because of how excited I was. And I just showed my excitement, and with my experience, I guess I was just the right fit. And so I am now here with the Stallions.
And that's impressive for someone to jump right from college right into the NFL Network. What'd you do for the NFL Network?
I worked for the YouTube team. So if you ever saw on YouTube, like the highlights or the game highlights, the player highlights, or just any videos of like from the cut downs of like the shows, that was what we did.
Wow. I mean, that in and of itself, that's an impressive haul. And I bet that was a lot of fun. Did you get to actually meet any of the players, or was this just a behind the scenes type of a thing?
I got to meet some of the on-air people, but no one like really, I guess people would really know, but it was kind of like we had like two separate buildings, and the social media people kind of had like their own room, whereas the stages were on another area. So I didn't really get to run into them too much, but it was really just a fun environment to be in and to just learn a lot from them.
Now, before we talk about the Stallions, so the league itself has always been dubbed, and we've talked about this a ton of times, as an opportunity, a league of opportunity. And we had Jamie Say on, who is actually one of the only play-by-play announcers that I can think of on the radio in football right now. But talk about being a female in this organization and the opportunities that you as a team reporter now get to enjoy. That not a lot of female sports reporters get to do this type of thing.
Right. Actually, so of the 8 teams, I am the only female reporter for the teams, and it's really amazing how I've been treated like the other ones. I'm not treated any differently. So it's been a really good opportunity to just get this experience. And I mean, I don't know if it has anything to do with being female, but I guess I just, how to explain? Like we're all on the same level. So I guess I don't feel like different, even if I am a female.
And that's good, though. And that's exactly how you should feel, right? I mean, you shouldn't feel any different from anybody else. And so that's why I think that your story, Jamie's stories, Jennifer from Orlando story, or is it Orlando? I'm misspeaking, but anyways, her story is impressive as well, because nobody is treated any differently. And for young ladies that are down, and you sound very, very nice and young. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay. And that's still, I mean, look, as an old crusty man, 25 is I kind of wish I could go back there, but yeah, I mean, 25 is still when you have folks looking up to you in the high school levels or the, young college levels, to see that they have somebody that looks like them, succeeding in the professional level. That speaks volumes as to, like I said, what the AAF is doing for, everybody and all genders.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I never thought of it that way, because I feel like I'm still trying to work my way up, and I still have idols that I'm looking towards,
Well, I mean, we all do, don't we? We all want to be that next rung up there. But so, all right. So the Stallions, all right. You've been with them for a while. You've seen them. Why did the first game of the season fall short? And what do you think it's going to take for them to turn this around in week 2?
Well, like I said before, and even as Dennis Erickson said, he's it's kind of like a trial run, like the first game, because we kind of saw like how we all meld together, the chemistry, And now we see where our mistakes are. And everyone was just hungry this week because we didn't do very well. The receivers didn't do so great. Our defensive backs didn't do so great, but we did really well on the defensive line, and we did well in the running game. But it's just making those changes to get better on those mistakes. But I really honestly think that they're looking at this very, with hunger this week, and that they're going to make those changes and show up with the iron differently than what they look like with the Arizona Hotshots.
Well, and of course, that's the thing. I mean, the game itself was probably the most competitive game of the weekend and really one of the most entertaining. And it weren't for maybe a couple of big plays, Salt Lake could have been actually staring down a win on that one. But again, they were going against one of the hottest quarterbacks of the week. In fact, if not the hottest quarterback of the week, no pun intended. But now they're going to go up against another hot quarterback in Birmingham.
Yes.
And they got to prepare for Luis Perez.
They do. They really do. He's doing well, and he has a great running back and receivers. I have faith in our defensive line because our defensive line is great. So, and the other thing is too that when we played the Birmingham Iron, like a joint practice during the training camp, it didn't seem like the talent level was any different. So, and the thing is, we don't know, of course, because they had people that are on the team anymore. The final roster is now just recently been finalized, but they also beat a team, Memphis Express, who we played in a scrimmage game that we beat. So there's still hope that the Stallions could beat the Birmingham Iron.
Well, I know that you and all of Salt Lake are wishing for the same thing, but is there any update on the QB situation there? How is Woodrum doing?
I know, I keep getting asked this. He's day to day. So we're really still not sure. We are really just going to wait until probably the day before, and hopefully we can get an unofficial roster out that day.
Speaking of unofficial rosters, maybe you can answer this for me. Why is it that we cannot get depth charts more than a couple of hours before kickoff? I know that us super fans out here get so super frustrated because we live and die by this stuff, and we just want a depth chart to go off of earlier in the week.
I know what you mean. I feel the same way. I even ask for it because I know that my followers want it, and I keep asking for it. And they're like, no, we'd rather get it, not to the media until Friday. Like, they just want to play it safe. I guess they just want to play it safe, I think. And so that's why I'm pushing it for Friday, hopefully, but it might be Saturday.
Fine, then we'll all have to follow you on Twitter for at least Salt Lake's a roster, because we, like I said, there's a lot of us who are now playing fantasy football, daily fantasy football. We would absolutely love to know who's playing before we start setting our lineups. Look, we're degenerates. We can't help it. We love this sport.
I know. No, it's also sport lovers, but it's also like our social media world. We want it now, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like, if we don't get it within the first 10 minutes, and I mean, people were clamoring for the app months in advance. So, I want it now, daddy.
Yeah, but I can rest assured that I will try to get out to you guys as fast as I can.
Outstanding. All right, so what's it like being the female reporter? And again, I know you don't think of yourself that way, but I mean, do the players treat you any differently? Is it harder to get interviews? What's that been like for you? No,
it's actually, I don't know how the other reporters, what their relationship is with the players, but my relationship with them is great. Like, they accepted me like from day one. I don't know if it helps that I'm a female, that maybe like it's just not like, I guess, in the way that I'm sweet to them, and so they like to talk to me. And whenever I want to interview them, they're like, yeah, for sure, they'll meet with me. I've never had a problem with any of them to do interviews or talk with them on camera. Like, they're all willing to get the exposure as well. And they're all great people. They're all humble. They're not like your typical athlete that people would think that they're, maybe stuck up or anything. No, they're all great guys.
What's been your favorite moment so far of this whole first couple of weeks and the ride so far that you've had?
My favorite moment, I think, so far is when I interviewed Dennis Erickson after he was announced a member of the 2019 College Football Hall of Fame.
Ooh, that's got to be a good one. He must have been in a very good mood at that point.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's in a good mood every day. That man is the best too. He's a great guy.
You know, as a Niner fan, I remember him coaching the Niners, and I don't think he really left all that much of a lasting impression on a lot of Niners fans. But he's a good guy, yeah.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I mean, every time I interview any player, any coach about Erickson, they always say he's a player's coach. He always is attentive to the player. He thinks about the player. The player is the forefront on his mind. So that's just this one comment everyone says.
Do you get to travel with the team? I know you traveled to week 1, but do you get to travel for the rest of the season?
Yep, every game on the charter plane, yes.
Oh, yeah. Your life is totally horrible, isn't it?
It's a dream.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm just going to give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your work, and all that other good stuff so they can keep up on the Stallions this season.
Yeah. So on Twitter, on Instagram, I am Chantel, Chantel, Buchi, Buchi. And then you can find all our articles on saltlakestallions.com.
Outstanding. Chantel Buchi. She is the Buchi, not shine, Rod. Buchi.
Yes.
Although you do shine, you are an excellent, and I appreciate you coming on. Again, follow her on Twitter. Keep up with the Stallions and all season long. And again, thanks for coming on, Chantel.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Joining me now is Cole Thompson. He is the San Antonio Commanders team reporter and got to be definitely feeling good after week 1. Cole, thanks for joining me so much.
Hey, no problem, man. More than happy to come on the show. Thanks so much for supporting the league, and thanks so much for reaching out.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I can't not have folks talking about this league. Other voices other than my own on the show. I'm sure people appreciate that. But, hey, you got to be feeling pretty good after week 1, yeah?
I definitely feel we're in a very good spot. You know, we went back and looked at the film. We went back and saw our several mistakes. But, you know, the big thing is that I saw a lot of people compare us to a team that ended up winning the Super Bowl in 1985, known as the Chicago Bears. A very sound defense with a very progressive offense. As long as you can limit the turnovers, I definitely think the Commanders are one of those teams to really watch out for this year because of their high-tempo defense. Look, when you get 6 sacks and 3 turnovers in a game, that's not a fluke. And I know people are saying that, you know, the defense will always be ahead of the offense. And that's just really it in life, too, because of with defensive players, you have a little bit more range. You're able to mix up some formations. Where on offense, you really have to play a sound kind of set style. But 6 sacks and 3 turnovers, those are numbers that just do not lie, especially with the versatile defensive secondary that we have. I'm feeling very confident going into week 2 against Orlando, who also had a very impressive game.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, hey, listen, before we get too deep into the woods, that hit, tell me about that hit, watching it in person. What was that hit like that set the tone so early on?
Well, what I can tell you about the hit from what I'm allowed to actually go on is that it was an impressive, clean hit, both here and in the NFL. If you watch the hit, in slow motion, he does not lead with his head and he does not go helmet to helmet. It was actually right in the middle of the chest, and it was a beautiful, clean strike on Mike Ravecki. Give a lot of credit to Ravecki for getting up as fast as he did, and even for just pretty much staying in the game after that. But overall, what an impressive start to a league. On the 3rd play by the San Antonio Commanders defense, that's what you get to remember, and that was the highlight of the weekend. Expect plenty more of that from Sean and all of our outside linebackers. They are ready to hit, but more importantly, they're ready to bring home a championship.
Yeah, I pretty much called that the hit heard around the world because everybody was retweeting it. Everybody was talking about it. And you're right, for it to happen so early in the very first televised game of the league, I mean, that gave a lot of, I don't want to say credibility, because I just brought a lot of eyeballs onto the game and onto the league. And obviously having it be the Commanders must have been pretty doggone good for your organization. How are they taking the attention from week 1? How's everybody handling it over there after the win?
Well, we're all very excited to hear about the numbers. When you're able to beat Saturday night NBA against 2 teams that are very dominant in the NBA, the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, that is a very good sign for your league. I think it shows multiple things. One, football is still one of the biggest sports and probably is the most favorite sport by Americans in today's society. And you saw that because of a week after the Super Bowl, it still had the highest numbers of the weekend of an actual performance. So with that in mind, that really sets the tone for the rest of the league moving forward. The biggest thing also were ticket sales skyrocketed after those big plays, especially by Orlando and San Antonio. Both crowds had over 20,000 people in the stands in their games. We had the most this week with over 27, nearly 28,000 fans able to be in attendance in the Alamo Dome. So with that in mind, you definitely have to think that this is a league that is built to last. The city of San Antonio has seen 6 professional teams in some shape or form between the USFL, the WLAF, and the Arena Football League, as well as the New Orleans Saints in 2006 when Katrina happened. Now they have another team coming in. This time they hope it's for good.
Yeah, I was about to say, San Antonio's hungry for some football. I know that they really do love their professional football, and we talked about the history a couple episodes ago of all the teams that have come in and out of San Antonio. So you guys have to have had a huge buzz coming into the season, and I'm sure that everybody was just ready and hungry for professional football again in San Antonio.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing is also the state of Texas in general is known for being a football state. When you look at the big storylines of Friday Night Lights, the Dallas Cowboys being called America's team, as well as all the other big time stories that you've ever heard, most of those start in Texas. So to be able to add another team to the state is just very positive. But to a team like San Antonio, the 7th largest city in America, most people actually forget that is the 7th largest city in America, actually beating Dallas at this point in not just population, but also in progressive size. If you take out if you take Fort Worth out of Dallas. So to be able to put a professional team here, that's going to speak numbers moving forward, and that's going to hopefully keep a team here for the foreseeable future. I know a lot of people in San Antonio have wanted a professional NFL team, but I can tell you this much. The AAF is professional football at its finest, and it is a developmental league to where you could probably see stars from this league end up going to a Super Bowl a year or two from now on an actual NFL roster. So with that in mind, you have to think it's very positive for the city of San Antonio to have even a professional football team like the AAF here just to build some buzz. And even though it's not the NFL, I can tell you this much, it's just as fun.
Well, and I think it's even more fun. And I've said this, to everybody that will listen on Twitter, and it's because these guys are playing with something to play for. I mean, they haven't already signed their multi-trillion-dollar deal, and they're, sitting back trying not to get hurt and not to, negate any of that money. They're playing because they eventually want to make that money, sure, but they're playing because they want to play and they have something to prove. And every single person out there is not just sitting back hoping to not get hurt. They want that contract. So with that sort of carrot dangling above them, that's just going to make them play all the more fierce and a lot more fun to watch.
I think you're on the right track of that, but I think the main point is it's just fun football for them. These are people who want to continue to play the game, even if they know that they're never going to make it back to the NFL. There are players in this league who did spend 6-7 years in the NFL, bouncing from NFL teams to also practice squads, and may never get the chance to go back to that level. But they still love the game of football, and it's quality football, and that's what these players are meant here to do. They want to just continue playing because they don't want to give up on their dream and have to go settle for a normal job, to have to go give up on something that they've trained their entire lives for. And some of them will get back to the NFL. And some of these guys who were on practice squads this past year will end up going back next year and will have a chance to go make a team again. But the great thing about the AAF is if you do not make an active roster, even if you do sign with a team after our season ends, you are welcome back into the league. So the biggest thing is they can come back and continue to play until their contract is up. It's a 3-year contract for $275,000. Every player makes the same, and that was a big point that our CEO, Bill Polian, wanted to address. Every player has the exact same opportunity to make it to the NFL. No player is better than any other player. Everyone is equal, and everyone deserves the exact same chance. And that, I think, is what's going to make this game so much fun and make this game enjoyable for the fans, is because of how you said it. They want to make it back, but they're also just guys having fun playing football.
And that to me is the key. I just want to see stars in the AAF that, again, you're like you said, they don't have aspirations to make it back because they know what the NFL life is like. They bounced around from team to team. They just want to play football. And if we can see stars emerge, the salaries are going to go up eventually, right? I mean, they're not going to just make the minimum that they're making now because there's going to be more money that comes into this. We already know. I feel like I already know that this league will be around for a few more years. And so we'll see the salaries go up. So we can see stars in this league, and they're not washed up. They're not has-beens. They're people playing football. And the funnel is so thin to get to the top that there's room in that middle section to actually enjoy quality football from folks that can still play the game and are hungry to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree with you on all of those things. The one thing that I will say right now is I can't tell you, because I don't even know what would happen if the salaries would go up. That is actually a question that will be addressed maybe a few years down the line. We have no idea what it's going to be. A lot of people have already asked after the first week, when is the next expansion coming? We have no idea when that's going to come. Now, even if they have new recent rumors about it, I can tell you right now, the league is planning on these 8 teams being the 8 teams this year, and that is the main focal point. And the main focal point is also every player is paid the exact same because of they want each player to have the same opportunity. So even if there are rumblings about that, the biggest thing is that I think every player wants to make it back to the NFL to get that major contract. So if they have to play in this league for 2 years even to go make it back to the NFL, it's a fair opportunity. And I think that's the big thing that I hope most people realize is you could be a star in this league and a quality player in the NFL, but it does not matter. Every single player has the exact same opportunity to go back to the NFL, and every single player has the exact same opportunity to make a difference for their team in the Alliance.
All right, let's turn our attention to this coming week. You got a big matchup. What are you guys looking to improve upon? What are you guys looking to do going to the game this week?
Well, I definitely think overall you have to see a little more production in the offense. Not trying to say anything bad because the offense had actually the second highest numbers of all the teams for productive yards in the game against San Diego. They only finished right behind Orlando in total offensive yards with, I believe, 376 total yards. The running game was fantastic between Woodside and all 3 running backs. They combined for 125 yards as well as a touchdown. And then Woodside threw for 225 passing yards. So when you look at that number alone, those are very good numbers. But the biggest thing is scoring in the red zone. Too many times, I believe it was 4 trips to the red zone, 5 trips to the red zone, where they only scored 1 touchdown, and they settled for 3 field goals from our kicker, Nick Rose, and then Woodside threw one of the interceptions to cornerback Ron Brooks to kill a drive. But overall, I think as long as you're able to put up those points with a high-tempo Steve Spurrier offense that Orlando is running, it's going to be a very exciting game. Because the biggest thing is that I think, personally, San Antonio has a very sound defense, and they're very capable of creating turnovers against Garrett Gilbert. But the biggest thing is if they do give up points like they could against Orlando, the offense has to continue to score and pick up the slack that maybe the defense has let up a little bit here and there. I definitely think that this is going to be a higher scoring game than what we saw on Saturday night, but I'm not sure it's going to be a 40-something game like Orlando showed. This is a very good defense that San Antonio has, and we're very excited to see that product on the field.
Yeah, Garrett Gilbert, definitely impressed. And that's the one thing where I know that when you're dealing with a quarterback that probably spent, the last week in the NFL, you knew you were about to get something out of him. So, yeah, San Antonio's got a lot to prepare for because it's definitely not Mike Bercovici. But there again, the defense did look stout. And I feel like San Antonio, I don't think they got enough respect for what they did defensively, even though San Diego's offense looked a little bit flat there. So, what players that may not have shown out in week 1 should fans be looking out for, or players that maybe didn't get the recognition that they should have out of the game against San Diego?
Well, there's one guy who was on our who was actually inactive. I do think we'll have a very big game this upcoming week, and that's running back Trey Williams. He is a very versatile runner. He does everything very well. He's 5'7", but he moves very well in between the trenches. He plays a bit of a Darren Sproles type role. He can run on 3rd and short. He's probably best used as a pass catcher. He's great with his hands, and he is electrifying in the open field. So I expect him being active will definitely add something else to the passing game, especially in the short yardage in the red zone where he's able to make people miss and probably score a few touchdowns. On defense, I'm going to go with 2 guys. Number 1, I think Joel Lanning, middle linebacker out of Iowa State. You might know the name as the former quarterback of Iowa State who ended up switching over to middle linebacker his senior year, and he won an All-American, one of those awards. So pretty big honors, I pretty much think. He had a very good game, 2 tackles in the open field, but I definitely think that his ability to cover and his ability to be a late blitzer, as you can only blitz 5 in this league, so you blitz your front 3, have one of your outside linebackers go, and then him come up the middle when there's an open space. I think he could be up for a very big game. And another player who you may remember from the Green Bay Packers, Jaron Elliott. He had 1 sack against San Diego this past week. I expect him to be a major threat inside the red zone. I expect him to at least have several opportunities to create a sack, as well as 6 or 7 QB pressures. He is a very dominant player, and he's great he's great as a pass rusher. Definitely look out for him as well this week.
So, hey, what's this been like for you? What's this ride been like personally for Cole? How's this been treating you so far?
Well, it's an amazing experience. I spent 2 years covering the Houston Texans, and it was a wonderful time, and I hold nothing against it because I got to learn and grow in this. But to be able to call myself part of a team is nothing short of impressive. I've always been honored and blessed to have this opportunity. We have a fantastic social media staff and a fantastic communications group. Our marketing has been flawless. Thanks to our manager, Michelle Brana. Our team president, Vic Gregovich, is nothing short of phenomenal. I'm very blessed to be where I am at this point. And these players are awesome to work with. They're open, they're honest, and they just want their stories to be told. The biggest thing about this league is it's a second chance. And every person has a story. And it's my job to make sure I get their stories known. And one day, I hope to see all of them probably hosting a Lombardi Trophy. That would be just a dream of mine.
And that's the thing about team reporters. I mean, it's a mixed bag a lot of times because the team reporter has to tell the tough story sometimes. There's a lot of times where they have to be critical of the team if need be, and players don't necessarily like it. But you're in a unique position where, like you said, players just want their name out there. So you get the unique opportunity to tell good stories because that's what needs to happen, especially early on in this league.
I definitely think so. I definitely think that the main thing is that you want to tell the good stories, but you also want to tell the local stories. The biggest thing is we have 2 local San Antonio products on our team. In Aaron Green, he went to Madison High School and then went to TCU and toured up there. And Josh Stewart, wide receiver, who went to UTSA, who holds 2 records there as receptions in a single season, and he ranks 3rd all-time on Roadrunner touchdowns. So you want to get their names out there as well, but you also want to tell those stories of players who have been out there. I've dealt with, in my entire career, in 3 years out of college, I've dealt with death. I have dealt with, hardships. I've dealt with people who have been down in the dumps, who had to live out of cars. I know how to tell these stories, but the biggest thing is you have to have these people be open and honest with you. And these guys are. They just want to have their stories told, and every single person has a story. And it is a huge blessing that I get to do this every single day and work with these players and get to know them too. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't realize professional football players are just normal people. They just are like us. And when you get to actually talk to them and hear about their day, hear about their families, hear about their kids, it's a great feeling. And they want to know about your life too. So I have conversations with these guys just like I would have a conversation with you or anybody else. And that's something that, I find very special.
Yeah, again, especially in a league like this where everybody's starting out, everybody's fresh, and everybody just wants to be friends for now. So he is Cole Thompson. He is the team reporter for the San Antonio Commanders. Cole, I appreciate you spending some time with us. Please tell everybody where they can find you on social media and read your work.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Make sure you're following all of us at sanantoniocommanders.com and both on social media on Instagram and Twitter at AAF Commanders. And if you want to follow me personally, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson. So remember, at AAF Commanders, at Mr. Cole Thompson, and make sure you check out all of our great work, all of our great content, and all of our stats. And even if you don't want to check out our stats, check out all of our highlights at sanantoniocommanders.com. And you can also buy your tickets there. So if you're local in San Antonio and haven't checked out a game, stop by sanantoniocommanders.com, pick up your tickets. We can't wait to see you.
Cole Thompson, everybody, team reporter for the San Antonio Commanders. Thanks, Cole, for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Take command.
As we finish up the show and start down the last quarter, we are going to start a new segment that I'm going to call the Fantasy 4-Pack. If you don't already know, you need to know right now. Fanball.com has got daily fantasy AAF going on for those of you who were looking for it on DraftKings, looking for it on FanDuel, and all your favorite DFS sites. They're not there. You only can play right now on fanball.com. That's FANBALL.com. They've got daily fantasy going right now for the AAF. I played last week. I was so close to coming in the cash on one tournament, and it was I think it was a last minute play that took me out of the cash, and I lost by less than a point. So I was very disappointed, but I did cash in another tournament. I just didn't get a chance to actually make all the money back that I put in, but it was a lot of fun because I enjoy daily fantasy, and I'm so glad that Fanball is offering it for the AAF junkies out there. But in this segment, every week, I'm going to be breaking down the fantasy 4-pack because, look, everybody's looking for value, and especially right now when the prices are sort of crazy because there's not a whole lot of data to back up these prices. This is where you're going to start to see some great value coming out of some of these players early on. Now, as the season progresses in the next few weeks, obviously the prices are going to tighten up. Value might be a little bit hard to find, but at least right now, if you want to fill your lineups with some great players, you can look at some of these players in the fantasy 4-pack for your flex, or maybe for a second wide receiver. So however you want to put these players in, you can. You don't have to use all four. You don't have to use any of them. I'm just giving you options at price points for you to be able to make decisions and set your lineups and hopefully walk away with some cash. I mean, some of these tournaments this weekend, you could have won $100 by entering $5, $10. You could have walked away with a couple $100 in one of the tournaments. So it's all up to you. If you want to play, if you love playing DFS, fanball.com is your choice. Let's start with the fantasy 4-pack right now. The first player coming in at $4,600, Ernest Johnson of the Orlando Apollos. He's interesting because everybody remembers that Akeem Hunt is on that squad, and everybody remembers that Akeem Hunt got the ball quite a bit, but they don't remember that Ernest Johnson actually got himself 5 carries, and with those 5 carries picked up 35 yards and had a touchdown reception from Garrett Gilbert. Of course, everybody remembers Garrett Gilbert's big night too, but Ernest Johnson quietly had a pretty decent game in there. He is only $4,600 for this week, so this might be a good week to fire him up, and maybe he can find himself falling into the end zone at least once or so. So again, Ernest Johnson, running back for the Orlando Apollos, $4,600 on Fanball right now. Make sure you find a way to fit him in. It's definitely one of the cheaper options for you to go to. Another cheap option is Gerald Christian, the tight end out of Arizona. He had 3 catches on 4 targets, which was actually the third most on the team. Arizona tended to use their tight ends just a little bit more than we probably expected them to out of the gates. But he had 3 catches on 4 targets for 44 yards and a touchdown, did Gerald Christian, and his touchdown was a thing of beauty. He is $4,500 on Fanball right now, so you might want to go scoop him up before his price goes up next week, I'm sure. Ladarius Perkins of the Birmingham Iron. He is a running back. He is $4,800 right now. Now, Perkins is an interesting situation because Fanball, if you don't know, Fanball is actually a PPR, points per reception league. And so you get points for catches. And Ladarius Perkins, while he did not have a monster running night, in fact, he only had 5 carries for 13 yards, where he made his point total was his 6 receptions on 8 targets for 36 yards. So 6 receptions is just as good as 60 yards in a PPR. So again, when you look at the scores and you look at the folks that are making the points, just understand that on 8 targets, now that Birmingham is going to throw a lot to their running back, and that is a very valuable position to have, especially at $4,800 to fill out your roster. So you want pass catching running backs, and you want to be able to make sure that every player that you put on there puts out some sort of points. And that was hard in week 1 because we didn't have lineups. We didn't have starting rosters. So it was a little difficult to take a 0 in some of these when you didn't have time to switch your lineup because a lineup only came out, a couple minutes before the snap. So, and just so you're more familiar also with Fanball, they give you a $35,000 salary to fill a quarterback slot, a running back slot, a wide receiver slot, and 3 flexes. Okay. Probably should have led with that, but we'll get you acquainted with them and we'll get back to the second two players on the fantasy 4-pack. But again, it's $35,000 and you have 6 players to roster, a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, and then 3 flexes. Those flexes can be anything. They say wide receiver, but with the flex player, you can use a tight end, a running back, or a receiver. You just can't use a quarterback to double up. But your flex can be any of those positions: a wide receiver, a running back, or a tight end. And of course, since you can't put a tight end in a wide receiver slot, this would be where you would play a tight end, is in the flex position. So again, I urge you to go check it out if you want to go play some daily fantasy before the weekend. It is definitely worth the shot and definitely worth the look. All right, one player left on our fantasy 4-pack, and that is Brian Brown, the wide receiver from the San Diego Fleet. I know that the Fleet did not get off to a good start. I know that Berkovici did not find too many of his receivers, but he did find Brian Brown. And Brian Brown had 5 catches on 6 targets, which was actually the most on the team for 66 yards. So Brian Brown had himself a decent night in a night that was less than salvageable for the Fleet's offense. And really, next to Gavin Escobar, he was actually tied with Gavin Escobar for the most yards on the team. So Escobar had 66. Brian Brown had 66 as well. And it took Brian one more catch to get there. But again, 5 catches on 6 targets, which was the second most on the team. I'm sorry, I forgot Francis Owasu got 7 targets. But anyways, still, Brian Brown was targeted quite a bit on that poor night. So for him to be able to get 66 yards and to find the way to even get the ball out of that was definitely something to look for. So again, he's only $3,000. He is the pretty much bottom of the barrel is what you can get here. So for the cheapest price, you get the second most targets on the team, and going up against an Atlanta Legends defense that is not scary. So if you get 11.6 out of 3,000, that's almost 4 times your value. If you can get that again, if you can just get 5 catches for 66 yards, you're doing pretty good in that flex position. So, all right, that was the Fantasy 4-pack for this week, for week 2. Let's go over it one more time. D'Ernest Johnson, the running back from the Orlando Apollos, $4,600. Gerald Christian, tight end out of Arizona, $4,500. Ladarius Perkins, the pass-catching running back out of Birmingham, $4,800. And then Brian Brown, a total dart throw at $3,000, the wide receiver out of San Diego. There's your Fantasy 4-pack. Happy playing. Hope I see you on fanball.com. All right, let's finish up the show. And that'll put an end to this episode, the Friday edition of the Alliance Football Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. I want to give a big shout out to our guest, Chantel Buchi of the Salt Lake Stallions, the team reporter. You can follow her on Twitter at Chantel Buchi. And then, of course, to Cole Thompson of the San Antonio Commanders, team reporter there. Follow him on Twitter at Mr. Cole Thompson. Again, if you want to play the daily fantasy version of the AAF, head down to fanball.com, sign up there. Maybe we'll see you, and maybe I'll play against you, and hopefully I can take your money. Just kidding. Well, not really. I do want to take your money. But anyways, what a great ride this week has been. Can't wait for week 2 action coming up starting tomorrow if you're listening, or Sunday, or whenever you listen to this podcast. But again, I hope you got some great information out of today. And I hope that you enjoyed the time we spent together. Hey, by the way, listen, running a contest right now on Twitter. Go to Twitter right now and find the tweet that tells you all about how you can win your very own starter jacket of your favorite team. It's pretty simple. Get there, try it, and I'm sure you will enjoy wearing that starter jacket around, and we'll be happy to give it to you once the contest is over. So, all right, that's it for the show. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this, and thank you so much for having this show grow so very much over the past couple of weeks. It's been fun to watch, and it's been fun to interact with all of you. So, again, this is great football. It's fun being together, and together we are the Alliance. We'll see you next time.